What's up guys, Team Legends TV here with a video on how to beat Majespecters. So Majespecters are one of the newer pendulum decks released in Dimension of Chaos, and their gameplay is pretty straightforward. What they do is they search, they're all pendulum monsters, and they don't have pendulum effects, but they have monster effects that allow them to search other monsters, or Majespecter spells and traps, and then they just accumulate advantage slowly through pendulum summoning back each turn. All the monsters have a continuous effect that they cannot be targeted or destroyed by an opponent's card effects. So this makes removal slightly difficult, but they all have very low attack. So the basic gameplay for Majespecters is they'll normal summon one of them, either Raccoon or Crow, hopefully to add a spell or monster to their hand, set up their scales, and pendulum summon the rest of their monsters, and activate all the effects on the field to search spells, traps, or another monster. And then they'll set their back row. And by doing this, they devote a lot to the field and don't maintain a lot of hand advantage. And then the opponent will go, they'll try to make their play, they'll negate or banish by tributing Majespecter or wind spellcaster monsters to disrupt the opponent's plays. And then during the next turn, if their scales haven't been disrupted or if they can reset them up again, they'll just pendulum summon everything back that they tributed and regain all of their lost advantage. And this repeats, and eventually they will outgrind their opponent. So one way during game 1 to get over Majespecters is if you were able to clear their field either through baiting out their negations or just letting them going minus or 1 for 1 through negating or banishing your plays. If you're able to clear their field and then disrupt their pendulum skills in a way that they cannot reestablish them during the next turn, whether it's Wavering Eyes while they control no monsters, Mystical Space Typhoon, something like that, or even Poisonous Winds. That's probably better for games 2 and 3 because you're not going to be maining that. But just if you're able to disrupt their pendulum scales so they cannot keep pendulum summoning, they will have a very hard time coming back. They devote most of their resources to the board, and it'll turn into a top deck game for them. For games 2 and 3, there are a lot of cards you can side in. The first one is Anti-Spell Fragrance. This is pretty much shuts down any pendulum deck because you cannot set cards in your scales. So yeah, if you get this up, you're going to have a very good time against them just because they cannot play Yu-Gi-Oh! For next, it's just any spell and trap removal. Whether this is Spell Shattering Arrow, Fairy Wind, MST, Wavering Eyes, Denko and Decree also. But those four, they clear the opponent's scales, and Majespecters also play a field spell, which allows them to tribute a wind spellcaster type monster to summon another Majespecter from the deck, level 4 or lower, and they gain an advantage off that. So just chaining MSD to the activation of Pegasus and popping their scales is really good. It sets the deck back a lot. Denko and Decree are really good. Denko is good because obviously Denko Sekka, they can't respond, but all of their monsters are really weak. You'll be able to normal summon Denka and they will have a very hard time getting over it, especially if you're also able to disrupt their scales, because then they can't just pendulum back and exceed for a Castel or a Diamond Dire to pop your Denko. Decree does the same, it just shuts off their back row. Their spells and traps destroy and banish monsters, but they don't clear other spell and traps, so they have a hard time getting over spell and trap floodgates. Poisonous Winds does sort of the same thing. Late game, if you're able to clear their field and then activate this, you won't need to destroy their scales because they just can't pendulum summon. And bonus to this is they can't even make Castel to get over it. Next, so this deck searches a lot. Thunder King Ryo, Mistake, Mistaken Arrest are all very good cards against the deck. If you get one of these out turn 1, they're going to be stuck with maybe 1 to 2 monsters on board and 1 trap or 2 traps, and they're not going to be able to regain their advantage each turn, even if they can pendulum summon through the continuous effect or through the activated effects on the field. Yeah, so that also really shuts down the deck. Also, Thunder King Ryo can negate their 1 pendulum summon if they summon 1 monster, but that is also situational. Next, we have Zombie World and Mask of Restrict. So these cards prevent tributing, and this essentially acts as Royal Decree or Denko. It shuts down their back row because they all tribute for cost, every single one of them, and it also turns off their field spell, which tributes to special summon. For Malevolent Catastrophe also works for spell and trap removal, especially because they set everything, they'll have very little advantage to the hand, and it will just clear everything else. So for monster removal, there aren't a lot of options other than attacking over them. There's Time Space Travel is a very good card. You would chain it to their Pendulum Summon, and it'll shuffle however many they Pendulum Summon back into the deck. And this is a huge snag for them. They still get all the effects that search or activate on summon, but they will have no more monsters to continually summon each turn. Storming Mirror Force also does sort of the same thing, except it's a lot more temporary because they can just summon them from the hand during the next turn. So this is just like last resort. You really just need to clear their field. Another tech is Lava Golem or any of the Kaiju monsters, because while their monsters cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects, they can still be tributed, and this clears their Majespecter monsters and turns off their spells and traps. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, or if you have any questions. Also, check out our Facebook fan page, facebook.com/TeamLegendsTCG. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.